Thanks a lot, Chair. Thanks first of all to Joan Collins for bringing forward this very important bill. We live in a world of growing and galloping and deepening inequality. Since 2020, about 2/3 of the new wealth created in the economy went to just 1% of the population, almost twice what the bottom 99% got globally. Same process is happening in Ireland, where now the richest 2 billionaires have as much wealth as the bottom 50% of the population. They are the people, the vast majority of whom, according to a recent survey, struggle to feed their own children. They have to cut back on their own meals in order to eat. We live in one of the richest countries in the world, and yet we have over 4,000 children homeless. All of that is a consequence of this growing inequality. That inequality has been rising and accelerating since the 1980s. Why is that? Well, we have governments that implement right-wing, Thatcherite, neoliberal policies designed to ensure that instead of wealth supposedly trickling downwards, it floods upwards. We have declines in corporation tax, in which Ireland plays a leading role in this race to the bottom. But one of the crucial factors is the decline in the power of trade unions. Trade unions ensure and win not just higher wages, not just better and safer working conditions for their workers. By their very existence, by their very strength, they increase the social wage, they decrease inequality, they increase things like social welfare, healthcare, education, and so on. And trade unions have been consciously undermined and attacked by right-wing governments, from the air traffic controllers in America in the 80s, the miners in Britain, in Ireland, in the form of the Industrial Relations Act, designed to tie the hands of workers and reduce their power to combine collectively to take on the very large economic and political power of the employer class in this country and globally. And this Irish government and successive Fianna Fáil Fine Gael governments have been a part of that. If we do not rebuild strong, fighting, democratic trade unions, well then you can see a picture of the kind of society we're going to have. You look at Elon Musk's comments, where he said he's against unions because he doesn't want to see a lord and peasant sort of thing. Of course, in reality, Elon Musk is a new lord, and he doesn't want to see the peasants getting organised. It's why he is in such opposition to trade unionists, to workers in Tesla in Sweden, who are opposing his agenda. If we don't rebuild strong trade unions, we're going to have more and more and deeper inequality, more and more poverty, and workers working in extremely poor conditions. This is a very, very simple, very, very modest measure designed to partially redress some of this trend of a decline of power of unions. It doesn't give workers the right to have their union recognised by their boss. It doesn't interfere with the much coveted by the government supposedly voluntarist model of trade unionism in this country, of industrial relations, which ignores the massive power of bosses, which means the relationship is anything but voluntarist, because workers have to work in order to eat. It doesn't force workers to join trade unions. It doesn't force workers to have their trade union subscriptions taken off in a check-off system. All it does, extremely simple, is that it gives workers the right to say, I want my trade union subscription to be taken off at the point of payment. Extremely, extremely simple, which would cut across some of the trade union busting activities of the employers, would cut across their ability to make it difficult for workers to be unions, would cut across them taking such action, for example, when faced with the potential for industrial action by workers. And what's the response of the government? The response of this government to an extremely modest measure to help workers be in unions is to oppose it. Why? And they can dance around this all they like about the need to have this discussion and that discussion and so on. But why? Because this government is an anti-trade union government. This government is an anti-worker government. This government is on the side of the billionaires in this world and not on the side of ordinary workers. And it makes a joke of the EU directive on minimum wages, which has a commitment. I mean, the government is meant to produce a plan to explain how we're going to significantly increase the number of workers covered by collective bargaining. They have to produce that plan by November of this year. But they clearly have no intention at all of doing anything about that, because you do not want to see the number of workers covered by collective bargaining increase. If you did, well, then you would be agreeing to this extremely simple measure. Just finally, I want to make a point about another aspect of the Industrial Relations Act which needs to be repealed. That is the fact that workers who today would want heroically to follow the example of the Duns workers in blocking and boycotting South African goods, they today could face persecution from their employer. They would not be covered because the Industrial Relations Act would say that is outside of the reign of what's covered in terms of trade union action. That is scandalous. Workers should be encouraged to take action against Israeli goods. The trade unions should encourage them, should fight for their right to do so, and we need to repeal the Industrial Relations Act.